fighting. But I know my God will fight it. Except I'm not God. Rest where mommy. Rest where. Rest where. I don't know whether they will allow us to roof here. Maybe I will roof it. My brothers. Your uncle stood by you. They all love you. They love you.
I'll call you back later, Mom. These were the last words Augusta Osedion ever spoke to her mother. Hours after that call, the 21-year-old Nigerian model and influencer lay dead in a pool of her own blood, stabbed multiple times by the man who claimed to love her. Her decomposing body wouldn't be discovered for 4 more days. When police finally broke into the luxury apartment in Lagos Oral Estate, they found a crime scene that would shock even veteran officers. Augusta's once vibrant life had been violently extinguished, her body bearing the unmistakable marks of a frenzied attack. The man responsible, her boyfriend Benjamin Killaboi, had already fled, leaving behind only a handwritten note and a trail of digital breadcrumbs that would eventually lead to his capture nearly 2 years later. This isn't just another story of domestic violence. This is the story of how social media's glamorous facade masked a deadly reality. How a young woman's distress call went unanswered until it was too late. How a mother's relentless pursuit of justice spanned continents and ultimately brought her daughter's killer to face accountability. In this episode of The Crime Anatomy, we'll take you inside the relationship that turned deadly, revealing the warning signs friends and family noticed but couldn't interpret in time. You'll hear the chilling details of Benjamin's public confession on social media, where he admitted to the killing before disappearing across international borders. We'll show you how Augusta's mother tracked her daughter's killer across West Africa, providing crucial intelligence that eventually led to his capture in Qatar in 2025. Most importantly, we'll examine how this tragedy reflects a growing crisis of femicide in Nigeria, and what we can learn to prevent more young women from suffering Augusta's fate. This is the story of Augusta Austa Osedion, a bright light extinguished far too soon. Welcome to The Crime Anatomy. We uncover the real stories behind the nation's most disturbing cases. If stories like this matter to you, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss an episode.
Put those fucking heels on and work it, girl. Let that mirror show you what you're doing. Put that fucking dress on and work it, kinda vicious, like somebody taking pictures. Shut it down, down, down. You shut it down, down, down. You be the baddest girl around, round, round. And they notice, they know.
Augusta Osedion was more than just another victim. At 21, she embodied the vibrant spirit and ambition of Nigeria's youth. Known to her followers as Austa, she radiated confidence and joy in every photo she posted. Friends described her as happy-go-lucky, intelligent and determined, a young woman who balanced her university studies with modeling and social media influencing. Born and raised in Lagos, Augusta grew up under the loving care of her mother, Cordelia Okoni. Their bond was extraordinary. Cordelia wasn't just a parent, but a mentor, confidant, and Augusta's biggest supporter. This close relationship would later become crucial in the aftermath of her death, as Cordelia transformed her grief into a relentless pursuit of justice. At Leeds City University in Ibadan, Augusta was pursuing a management-related degree. By 21, she had achieved milestones many of her peers still aspired to. She was kind to a fault, one friend later told investigators. Augusta's warmth and generosity made her popular both online and off. Her mother later recalled how Augusta would call her almost daily, sharing details about her classes, her modeling gigs, and her dreams for the future. These conversations were the heartbeat of their relationship, until one final, distressed call changed everything. What Augusta couldn't have known was how her life would become a powerful symbol in death, a rallying cry against domestic violence and a stark reminder of how quickly dreams can be shattered by violence. The bright future she had worked so hard to build was about to collide with a relationship that had turned increasingly toxic and dangerous. Benjamin Best Nairugo cultivated an image of success and luxury, known online as Killaboi, a nickname that would later take on a horrific new meaning. The 26-year-old portrayed himself as a successful gambler and entrepreneur, His social media accounts showcase designer clothes, luxury cars, and expensive jewelry. To his followers, he embodied the flashy lifestyle many young Nigerians aspire to. But beneath the surface lay a troubling history. In 2021, Benjamin had reportedly been arrested by Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for conducting a fraudulent 150 million Nigerian nairas POS transaction using a stolen card at a hotel in Umuahia, Abia State. Though never officially convicted, this brush with the law hinted at the deception behind his carefully curated online persona. Augusta and Benjamin's relationship began in 2020. At first, their connection seemed genuine. Photos showed them smiling together, embodying what appeared to be young love in the digital age. For about 3 years, they maintained what looked from the outside like an affectionate relationship. But those close to Augusta began noticing concerning patterns. The relationship was marked by intense jealousy, accusations of infidelity, and emotional turbulence. Benjamin's possessiveness grew more pronounced over time. Friends later reported that Augusta would occasionally mention arguments, but would quickly dismiss them as normal relationship challenges. He was very controlling about who she talked to. One friend later told police he wanted to know where she was all the time. Augusta's mother, Cordelia, had expressed concerns about Benjamin's lifestyle from the beginning. She questioned the source of his apparent wealth and worried about his influence on her daughter. These concerns created tension, as Augusta defended her relationship while her mother urged caution. By mid-2023, the relationship had deteriorated significantly. Arguments became more frequent and intense. Augusta spent more time at Benjamin's residence in Oral Estate, Ikota, Aja, Lagos, a decision that worried her mother, but seemed to reflect Augusta's desire to make the relationship work despite growing problems. What no one realized was how quickly the situation was escalating toward violence. The jealousy and mistrust that had characterized their relationship for months was building toward a breaking point. Benjamin's control over Augusta tightened as his insecurities grew. The warning signs were there: mood swings, isolation from friends, arguments that left Augusta in tears. But like many victims of domestic violence, Augusta likely normalized these behaviors, seeing them as temporary storms in an otherwise meaningful relationship. She continued to visit Benjamin's residence, perhaps hoping things would improve, perhaps not fully recognizing the danger she was in. On July 11, 2023, everything changed. Augusta called her mother in distress, telling her about a heated argument with Benjamin. Cordelia tried to calm her daughter down, advising her to step back and discuss the issue later when emotions weren't running so high. Augusta agreed, telling her mother she would call back later. That call never came. What happened in the hours after that phone conversation would remain unknown for days. Augusta's phone went silent. Messages went unanswered. Calls went straight to voicemail. The digital presence that had been so consistent suddenly vanished. Cordelia's maternal instinct told her something was terribly wrong. She tried reaching Benjamin too, but his phone was also unreachable. As hours turned into days, her concern grew into panic. Augusta had never gone this long without responding to her mother. What Cordelia couldn't have known was that her daughter was already gone, the victim of a violent attack that would soon shock the entire nation. What happened next can only be pieced together from evidence at the crime scene and Benjamin's later confession. Sometime after that call, the argument between Augusta and Benjamin escalated beyond verbal confrontation. According to Benjamin's later social media confession, the fight intensified over what he described as pain, betrayal, cheating, toxicity. He claimed Augusta had grabbed a knife, but police evidence would later contradict this version of events. The truth, as investigators would determine, was far more sinister. Benjamin attacked Augusta in a fit of rage, stabbing her multiple times. The ferocity of the attack was evident from the crime scene: multiple stab wounds, signs of a desperate struggle, and blood spattered across the apartment. After killing Augusta, Benjamin didn't call for help. He didn't turn himself in. Instead, he fled the apartment, leaving her body to decompose in the July heat. But before leaving, he took time to write a note police would later recover as evidence. For 3 days, Cordelia tried desperately to reach her daughter. Each unanswered call increased her anxiety. She contacted Augusta's friends and roommates, asking if anyone had heard from her. No one had. What Cordelia didn't know was that during this time, Benjamin was covering his tracks. According to later police reports, he even used Augusta's phone to send messages to her mother, pretending to be Augusta and claiming she was busy. This calculated deception bought him critical time to plan his escape. Meanwhile, Augusta's body lay undiscovered in the locked apartment. The neighbors, unaware of the horror inside, noticed nothing unusual, except perhaps the absence of a young couple who typically came and went. Unable to bear the silence any longer, Cordelia went to Benjamin's residence at Oral Estate. When she arrived, she immediately noticed Augusta's Mercedes-Benz C30 parked outside, a sign her daughter had been there. But the doors to the apartment were locked, and no one answered her frantic knocking. Cordelia's maternal instinct told her something was terribly wrong. She contacted the Lagos State Police, who dispatched officers to the scene. When repeated knocks went unanswered, the officers made the decision to force entry into the apartment. What they found inside was a scene of horror. Augusta's body lay on the floor in a pool of dried blood. The decomposition process had already begun, indicating she had been dead for several days. Her body bore multiple stab wounds and clear signs of a violent struggle. Reports from the period also indicated that parts of her body were missing, deepening the brutality of the crime. The apartment, once a place of luxury, had become a tomb. Lagos police spokesperson Benjamin Hundian later confirmed that marks of violence and signs of a fierce struggle were found on Augusta's body. The case was immediately transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department in Panti, Yaba, for deeper investigation. For Cordelia, the discovery was beyond devastating. The mother who had raised Augusta with such love and care now had to identify her daughter's decomposing remains. It was a moment of unimaginable pain, one that would fuel her determination to see justice done, no matter how long it took. 2 days after Augusta's body was discovered, Benjamin did something unexpected. He went online and confessed, using his Instagram stories and Twitter account under the handle @VVS_crypt. Benjamin posted a lengthy statement admitting responsibility for Augusta's death. The confession, which quickly went viral across Nigerian social media, read, "I'm truly sorry for the damage I have caused and the pain I have left. Everything happened due to pain, betrayal, cheating, toxicity, and all. None of her body parts went missing. Nothing was intentional. We got into a fight, an argument regarding something I'd rather not say in order to protect her image and respect for the dead. But all that which led into argument and fight which led to her carrying a knife and stabbing then happened, which I wished never happened. I ran out of fear. I stabbed someone and didn't know what to do at that point, but nothing was intentional and none of her body parts was cut out. I deeply regret and will give up myself and say nothing but the truth, as I know I have only a few days on earth, and only the truth can bring me peace and bring God's acceptance." I contacted her mom yesterday as well, and I'm going to turn myself in and believe I deserve death now, but regardless of anything, the truth deserves to be said and previewed and not manipulated. I will turn myself in and pay with my own life. Whatever the fate is, I will take, including death, as there is no justification for taking a life. I will be accountable. The confession sent shockwaves through Nigeria. Within hours, the hashtag #JusticeForAusta was trending nationwide. People shared Augusta's photos, expressing outrage and demanding Benjamin be brought to justice. But despite his promise to surrender, Benjamin had no intention of turning himself in. Even as his confession spread across the internet, he was already implementing his escape plan. The man who had so publicly admitted to killing Augusta was about to disappear, beginning an international manhunt that would span nearly 2 years.
It's just she was on first class, which she promised me, "Mommy, I will give you first class. I wear my NYC clothes to come and greet you in your school. I want to pay for every sacrifice you have made for us." It didn't come to pass. When they started dating December 1st, 2021, she told me, "Mommy, I'm into a relationship." Despite many people that asked her out, she didn't accept. Said, "There's somebody I love." I said, "Okay, bring to the house." He brought Benjamin to the house. Asked him questions, what he do, what he does, his line of business, he opened. When he's discussing with you, it will actually give you evidences of what is into, making you believe those are the things he was into. So that gave me a little security. If you can bring your boyfriend home, I know the boy, then you'll be secured. And the boy came, and I took him as a son.
Benjamin's escape was calculated and deliberate. After fleeing the crime scene, he initially hid within Nigeria before crossing into neighboring countries. His knowledge of West African borders and apparent financial resources made him a difficult fugitive to track. On October 9, 2023, nearly 3 months after Augusta's murder, the Lagos State Police officially declared Benjamin wanted. By then, he had already established a new identity, operating under the fake name Kanu Princeton Samuel. He had obtained a Sierra Leonean passport and was attempting to build a new life far from Nigerian jurisdiction. But Benjamin hadn't counted on the determination of Augusta's mother. Cordelia Okoni refused to let her daughter's killer escape justice. She leveraged every resource available to her, distributing Benjamin's photographs to contacts across West Africa and working closely with authorities to track his movements. "I was texting with him while searching for my daughter," Cordelia later revealed in an emotional interview. "He was pretending to be Augusta online, telling me she was busy, while my child was already dead in that apartment." This personal betrayal fueled Cordelia's resolve. She personally traced Benjamin to Sierra Leone, gathering evidence and providing authorities with crucial leads on his location. Her efforts paid off on October 20th, 2023, when Benjamin was arrested at a nightclub in Freetown, Sierra Leone, after a joint operation involving Nigerian police, Interpol, and Sierra Leonean authorities. But the case took another shocking turn. According to multiple reports, Benjamin allegedly bribed his way to freedom shortly after his arrest in Sierra Leone. Once again, he disappeared, this time more careful about his digital footprint and public appearances. For months, the trail went cold. Augusta's case remained in the public consciousness, but Benjamin seemed to have vanished. The hashtag Justice for Austa continued to circulate, keeping pressure on authorities to continue the search. Then in February 2025, nearly 2 years after Augusta's murder, came the breakthrough. Benjamin was located and arrested in Qatar after months of international pursuit. This time, there would be no escape. Interpol and Qatari authorities partnered with Nigeria's Ministry of Justice to ensure his extradition back to Nigeria. On April 19, 2025, the Nigeria police force confirmed that Benjamin Best had been successfully extradited and would face trial for Augusta's murder. For Cordelia, this was the moment she had fought so hard to achieve. Her daughter's killer would finally face justice in a Nigerian court. The international manhunt highlighted both the challenges and possibilities of cross-border law enforcement. It demonstrated how determined individuals like Cordelia could make a difference in the pursuit of justice, even when facing seemingly insurmountable obstacles. As Benjamin was let off the plane in handcuffs at Lagos Airport, the cameras captured the face of a man who had once flaunted his wealth and status online. Now reduced to a fugitive, returned to face the consequences of his actions. The flashy lifestyle he had cultivated had crumbled, replaced by the reality of a murder charge and the prospect of spending the rest of his life behind bars. For Augusta's family and friends, Benjamin's return to Nigeria represented a crucial step toward closure. But the pain of her loss remained, a bright life extinguished far too soon by an act of senseless violence. Law enforcement insiders quoted in April 2025 report stated that the suspect faced charges in court in due time. But as of October 2025, there has been no confirmed court appearance or arraignment for Benjamin Best Nairugo, also known as Killaboi, in the murder case of Augusta Osedion. In short, while the extradition was completed successfully and the investigation dossier was repatriated to Nigeria, the murder trial of Benjamin Killaboi Nairugo has not yet begun. He reportedly remains in pre-trial detention pending formal arraignment before a Lagos State High Court. Augusta's murder ignited a national conversation about domestic violence and femicide in Nigeria. The hashtag Justice for Austa became more than just a demand for one man's prosecution. It evolved into a movement calling for systemic change in how society addresses violence against women. Feminist and human rights organizations, including Document Women, Amnesty International, and Mirabel Center Lagos, used Augusta's case to highlight the broader crisis of gender-based violence in Nigeria. Her story joined those of other young women like Iniobong Umarin and Bamise Ayanwol, whose lives had also been cut short by violence. What made Augusta's case particularly resonant was how it exposed the darker side of social media relationships. Benjamin's carefully curated online persona had masked his true nature, the glamorous lifestyle he projected, and that many young Nigerians aspired to, concealed a dangerous reality. Digital toxicity is killing our youth, one activist wrote. We celebrate wealth and status without questioning its source or the character behind it. Augusta's death must be a wake-up call. For young women across Nigeria, Augusta's story served as a tragic reminder of how quickly relationships can turn deadly. On what would have been Augusta's 22nd birthday, her mother visited her gravesite, bringing flowers and prayers. "My God will fight for her," Cordelia said, her voice breaking with emotion. Despite the pain, she had transformed her grief into purpose, becoming an outspoken advocate for victims of domestic violence. Augusta's legacy lives on not just in the memories of those who loved her, but in the changes her story has inspired. Universities across Nigeria have implemented relationship education programs. Women's rights organizations have strengthened their support networks for those in abusive relationships. And social media platforms have developed better mechanisms to detect and report violent threats and confessions. For the millions who followed Augusta's case, her story serves as both a tragedy and a lesson. It reminds us that behind every hashtag is a human life, a person with dreams, ambitions, and people who love them. It challenges us to look beyond the glamorous facades of social media to see the reality beneath. And it calls on each of us to be more vigilant, more compassionate, and more willing to speak up when we see the warning signs of abuse. Augusta Onyewu Osedion was more than just a victim. She was a daughter, a friend, a student, and a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. Her death was not just a statistic. It was the loss of a bright light in the world, a potential unfulfilled, a future stolen. As we conclude this episode of The Crime Anatomy, we ask you to remember Augusta not just for how she died, but for how she lived, with joy, ambition, and love. And we ask you to join us in ensuring that her story helps prevent other young women from suffering the same fate. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out for help. No one should have to face abuse alone. Share this video to spread awareness. Subscribe to support our mission of bringing these important stories to light. And remember, the greatest tribute we can pay to Augusta's memory is to create a world where such tragedies never happen again. This has been The Crime Anatomy. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, knowledge is power, especially when it saves lives.